Welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive right in, shall we? If there's one absolute unavoidable reality in the business world, it's unpredictability. Markets move, exchange rates fluctuate, and commodity prices swing wildly from literally one day to the next. Now, you obviously can't stop the market from moving, but you absolutely can control how prepared you are for those movements. So today, we're going over an essential guide to risk mitigation strategies, and we're going to focus specifically on how organizations identify and manage their financial exposure.
I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you wake up tomorrow morning, check your phone, and boom, there is a sudden, massive price spike in a key resource that your company relies on. Does that news make you want to pop champagne and celebrate? Or does it cause, sheer unadulterated panic? Well, the answer to that question reveals your fundamental risk position. And figuring this out, it's not just some academic exercise. It is literally the bedrock of business survival.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the challenge of volatility. Second, understanding the long position. Third, understanding the short position. Fourth, identifying your own risk. And finally, we'll cover the crucial step you have to take before protecting yourself.
All right, Section 1, the challenge of volatility and why prices matter. Identifying your risk triggers is step number 1 in risk management. The core idea here is that you have to categorize your basic risk positions based entirely on how market variables actually impact your bottom line.
Okay, so here's the core dichotomy. Everything we're talking about really boils down to these two basic positions. On the left, we have the long position. This describes a scenario where an increase in the value of some market variable, a risk factor, actually makes your company a profit. Awesome, right? But on the right, we have the flip side, the short position. This is when an increase in that exact same market variable results in a financial loss. It's an economic hit. Keep this super simple rule in mind as we keep going.
Moving on to Section 2, understanding the long position, or winning with the rise. Let's take this concept and ground it in reality, looking at what it actually means to win when a price goes up.
Imagine a US-based exporting company. They've just closed a massive deal in Europe, and they're scheduled to be paid 1 million euros. But, as you can see in our timeline, they aren't getting paid today. They're getting paid in 90 days. Now, because they operate in the US, they ultimately need US dollars to pay their bills. Let's say on the day of the sale, the euro is worth $1.38, so they expect to eventually collect $1,380,000. Fast forward 90 days. If the euro rises to $1.48 by the time they get paid, those 1 million euros are now worth $1,480,000. They literally just made an extra 100 grand purely because of a favorable shift in the exchange rate. But naturally, if the euro drops to $1.28, they only collect $1,280,000, taking a $100,000 hit. Because this US exporter directly benefits from the price going up, they hold a long position on the euro.
Now, right before we visualize this, let's just establish a tiny bit of vital terminology so we're all on the same page. We use S0 to represent the spot price right now at moment zero. That's like our $1.38 exchange rate on the day of the sale. And we use ST to represent the spot price at maturity, or moment T, which is the day the transaction actually settles 90 days down the road. And this chart brilliantly illustrates the exact dynamic we were just talking about. On the vertical axis, we're mapping the company's profit relative to what they expected. On the horizontal axis, we map the market variable, our ST, the spot price at maturity. You see that straight 45-degree upward sloping line? This visually proves that as the spot price grows, moving to the right on the horizontal axis, the company's profit climbs higher on the vertical axis. That upward slope right there, that is the universal signature of a long position.
Section 3, understanding the short position, or the danger of an increase. Let's pivot symmetrically to the exact opposite scenario to see what happens when an increase in a market variable actually threatens your organization's financial health.
Here's another real-world story. This time, we've got a Colombian company. They operate entirely in Colombian pesos, but they've taken out a loan denominated in US dollars, payable in 365 days. At the exact moment they take the loan, let's say the exchange rate, our S0, is 1,995 pesos per dollar. Now, because they don't naturally generate US dollars, they're going to have to go to the market in a year to buy them to pay off that debt. Over the course of that year, if the price of the dollar actually drops down to 1,985 pesos, what happens? The company suddenly needs fewer pesos to buy the dollars required to settle the debt. The price went down, and they saved money.
But conversely, if the dollar skyrockets, their debt suddenly becomes incredibly expensive. Because an increase in the market price causes a direct financial loss, this Colombian company holds a short position on the dollar.
Let's see how this builds into our visual model. As you can see, this graph is the exact mirror opposite of our last one. The line slopes downward. This tells us that as the market variable ST increases and moves to the right along the horizontal axis, the company's profit drops below zero straight into negative territory on the vertical axis. Bottom line, for a short position, an increase in the market variable means a financial loss.
Section 4. Identify your own risk. What position are you in? Okay, so we've got the theory down. Now it's time for a rapid-fire application. Let's test your understanding across a few different industries. Let's just run through these examples real quick. An airline is naturally short on jet fuel because obviously if oil prices spike, they lose money. But look at rows 2 and 3. This is incredibly illustrative. A wheat farmer is praying for high wheat prices to boost their long position. But the baker just down the street, they're sweating over their flour budget because they are completely short on that exact same variable. If the price of wheat goes up, the bakery's costs skyrocket, resulting in a loss. Meanwhile, meat producers are long on meat prices, and financial institutions lending at variable rates are long on interest rates. It's the exact same market variables, but totally different impacts, depending entirely on the specific nature of your business.
Section 5. The step before protecting yourself, the foundation of hedging. This really brings us to the final resolution of our explainer. Identifying these positions is not just about drawing nice charts.
The crucial takeaway is captured perfectly in this quote from our source text. In order to manage risk, it is essential to recognize the basic risk positions faced by the company. Think about it. If you misdiagnose whether you're long or short, any financial safety net or hedging operation you try to build is going to completely fail. You might actually end up doubling your risk instead of neutralizing it. Before you even think about buying a forward contract, an option, or any fancy financial derivative, you have to look in the mirror and ask, am I long or am I short? I want to leave you with a provocative thought, something you can apply to your own work right now. Take a close look at your operations. What is the specific market variable, whether it's an exchange rate, a commodity price, or an interest rate, that could literally bankrupt your organization if its price skyrockets tomorrow? Figure that out, determine if you're naturally long or short against it, and you've just taken the first critical step toward bulletproofing your business. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the risks around you.